Hey there, welcome to this lecture. So in the previous lecture, we have seen how we can write all of the test cases, and we have covered all of the test cases for all of the layers. And if we can see in the console, right? Let's go to console, and if we are going to run all of the test cases here, it's gonna say like yarn test, and you can see all of the test cases are passed right here, right? That means somehow we successfully able to cover some of the edge cases, right? That's really very good thing. But what if we are going with this development, then definitely we need to tweak our test cases time to time, and we need to onboard rest of all the features. As an example, right now, if you go to our routes here, right? Let's go to our routes, and in our user routes, still we need to introduce a couple of things. As an example, for a user login and maybe user sign up with providing some kind of notifications, email, and a lot of things we need to cover. So while it comes to continuous development, right, and while we are making these changes of our code, and we just try to ship our code to the production level, then certainly we need to take help of like continuous integration and continuous delivery. So today in this lecture, we'll be going to discuss about what is continuous integration and what is continuous delivery. While it comes to development, right, so it doesn't matter like what kind of team you have. It may be a bigger team or maybe a kind of very small team. But still, if you follow this kind of practice, then definitely you are on the right track. At least you are following whatever rest of other industry standards people are following around the world, right? So let's try to match it up, all of these things in the industry standard way. So what we are going to do today, we'll be going to set up our CI/CD pipeline, where we will try to push our code to the GitHub repository, and every time we are making our changes to the code, and if we are making a commit, then it has to successfully test all of the test cases automatically. It's not supposed to wait for our manual intervention, right? That is what we're going to do today. All right, so now let's try to quickly understand what is CI/CD by going through this diagram. So CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery. So this is a kind of process to automate our code and test it out all of the features right before shipping our source code to the production server, right? So that is what exactly continuous integration is liable for, testing it out the code quality and checking it out all of the settings, right before building the project. Continuous delivery is liable for building our images and pushing that particular image to a certain repository and deploy all of the images or build artifact, everything to the production server, right? So where we can deploy our final source code. So that is the part exactly it's handling by our continuous delivery, right? So let's try to understand right before this CI/CD pipeline, what is the repositories, what kind of repository we are going to follow. So you can see there are two types of repositories we may follow here. So one is called Monorepo, where we will be going to keep like multiple child repository to inside a kind of one single parent repository, right? Or maybe there will be multiple modules or maybe services, right? So those are we are considering as a kind of monorepo, right? So that means like if you are splitting your code into different modules, then maybe you will be ended up with like there are three different sub repository. You're going to keep it inside your main parent repository. So those kind of repository is called the monorepo, right? So this is often happening while we're deploying our application in monolithic way, right? And what is multi-repo? Multi-repo stands for like we are splitting out all of these things in multiple repository. So where we are assuming like one of our module, it's going to be one particular service, right? Or maybe one service will be referred to a single repository. So in this case, let's say service 1, 2, and 3, each service will be having their own repository, right? So if you are going to deploy all of these services in the monolithic way, maybe we need to follow monorepo. Or if you are going to follow microservice way, then we are going to split it all of the services to multiple repository. So that means like all of these services will be not having any kind of dependencies or any kind of like cross dependencies and intersection of the boundaries of each other of the services. So independently, each and every microservice you can build and deploy, right? So that is what exactly the multi-repository it's mean for, right? In our case, we will put our hands on experiencing both of the repository types, right? And finally, we will be going to deploy our source code to our production server. Now let's try to understand how CI/CD process is taking place. Now let's try to have a quick look what kind of setup we are going to do for our initial continuous integration and delivery, right? So you can see at this diagram, like we have a multiple stuff right there. That is, we are segregating in the two different sections, right? You can see like this is our CI section where we will be going to test our code, right? or we will be going to check each and every bit of all of the settings, as an example, the linting, or make sure our code doesn't have any vulnerability, and our code is properly linted and formatted correctly, right? So it can be built and compiled perfectly. And finally, in the continuous delivery side, like we will be going to make sure like our application is perfectly built and it's wrapped up with some kind of like an image or wrapper, and we'll be going to push these things to our repository, and we'll start building or deploy to the production server. That is what we will be going to do in the continuous delivery section. Those are the things we'll be going to discuss in a wider way, but let's not try to make it complicated at this pace right now. So what we are going to understand right now, you can see like this is our source code that is sitting in our local machine, right? And as soon as you are raising, or as soon as you are pushing the code, definitely we will be not going to push our code to the main, right? So we will check out to a new branch as an example. That is going to be our Pete, let's say 123. That is the name of that particular branch. And we will build or develop that particular new features, whatever the intended task we're going to pick it up for that particular PR. Then once that is done, then we will going to push this code to our GitHub. Then we will raise to the PR. So as soon as we are raising the PR, then we will set up some kind of like the CI continuous integration pipeline, all right, with the help of GitHub Actions. And that pipeline will automatically get run right after raising the PR. So once the continuous integration, that pipeline is successfully ran, or there are no any issues, then our repository will be available for code review, right? Then your colleagues can review your code, and if there are any changes or maybe any recommendations are there, then again you need to make the change. Then again you need to push the code to this same PR itself with a different commit, right? Or maybe you can amend the commit. Then again the continuous integration going to run to make sure like your newly changed code that is already, it's not breaking down the existing features or something like that. Then once the continuous integration again it's successful, all these steps are passed, then again our repository will be ready for code review. So this is a kind of cycle. It's going to be like over and over it will go through based on your coding code health or maybe code quality. And then when we will be going to agree like our code is this particular feature is well structured and everything is good to go, then you will receive the code approval from your colleague. All right. Then once that is approved, then your code is ready to merge. So once that course is merged to the main branch, right, you can say like we are not considering any other branch, because in upcoming lectures we'll be going to discuss about the trunk-based delivery. That's why our branching strategy, we are not keeping any other branches, just like the development, staging, or etc. We are not keeping anything, right? Once this branch is merged to the main, then automatically that particular branch will be get deleted from the GitHub, right? And right after merge this source code to the main, then main will trigger the staging deployment pipeline, right? That is also we're going to set it up, right? So once our staging deployment going to be get triggered, then it will push the code and everything to a dedicated machine, right? As an example, in our case, we're going to use the EC2 instance with a kind of X amount of size and the memory, right? So where we will set up our node runner, and we will be going to push our build code, right? Application source code right there. And we'll be going to start that particular code inside that machine, right? Then now this page is all right, right? So we have our latest code that is already we developed with the help of that particular PR number, and all the code are tested with the help of continuous integration pipeline. And now our code is ready to serve. But how we are going to expose our code? So that is what exactly the reverse proxy will become to the place, right? So as a form of reverse proxy, we are going to set it up in Nginx, right? So with the help of Nginx, we'll be going to expose our internal application, this particular machine port number and all of the host address to outside the world, right? And with the help of SSL certificate, we are going to expose all of these things to a kind of secure manner. So all of the application, whatever the transactional data, it has to be secure under the hood of like an SSL certificate, right? And finally, with the help of the EC2 Nginx proxy, all the routes will be going to serve, right? Then finally, we'll be going to set up our domain with the help of Route Trip TT. That is, we'll be going to set up in our AWS infrastructure. Then our code, then our application is ready to serve. So this is the way we are going to set it up our application, right? Definitely in our upcoming lectures, we'll be going to set up some more complicated infrastructure. But right now, it looks a little bit complicated, but nothing to worry. As soon as you are putting your hands on writing all of the codes, then you will feel it really very easy for you. So far now we understood what will be our staging deployment strategy. So that means like as soon as we are raising our PR right after test, right after merge the code, then it will automatically deploy on the staging environment, right? So that's why we have two different machines. Now you can see our main branch is up to date with the successful staging deployment, right? So that means all of the source code, that is the new feature we have introduced, that is already merged to the main, right? So this is the time where we can manually dispatch the production deployment. While we are going to dispatch the release process from the main branch manually, then it will going to create a release, then it will going to spin the production deployment pipeline, right? As soon as our production deployment pipeline going to run, then it will going to deploy our latest source code to a production machine. This is the similar way, the way we have described in our staging environment, and here also going to have the similar process. So now we can see we have our production server, and production server will be also having the Nginx and the SSL certificate, but this time the production server will be pointed to a different domain name with the help of Route 53, right? So that means like our staging environment will be having a kind of distinct domain, and the production server also going to have the distinct domain name, right? So we can parallelly run both of the different server. So one will be having our staging environment codes, and another one will be having our production level code. So now we can see this is the setup right now initially we are going to do. And once this is done and we successfully able to ship all of the code in the production server, then we'll be going to do a little bit complicated server setup, right? So where we will be going to build our image, lint and unit test, integration test, and build our Docker image. And then finally, we'll be going to follow this kind of trunk-based delivery in upcoming lecture. So now I guess this is enough for a while to set up the initial setup for our CI/CD configuration with the help of GitHub. So now let's go to our source code and put our hands on right there to set it up everything together, right? Then see you in the next lecture. Thank you.